After a scare, Man City are back on track. Tottenham lose at home again, and 10-man Chelsea hold Arsenal. I'm Christopher Coleman, you're watching AfterMatch. Right, hello, I'm Christopher Coleman. This is AfterMatch. Welcome to Match Day 13, which is, I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible so I can get this recorded in to use show before the midweek fixtures. Which, if you haven't seen the predictions I did, the midweek predictions, I uploaded them yesterday, so you can check them out on my YouTube channel now. But yeah, and on that, next week's AfterMatch, I think we've got. Is there ones on? I'm assuming there's ones on the weekend as well. Yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of games on next weekend. So yeah, it's gonna be quite a longer episode next week. That's what I was trying to say. That it's either gonna be a longer video, or just gonna be more short and succinct with each game. Just because I've got 20 games to do, not 10. So yeah, I'll think of something for next week, but I think you just have to soon see what I end up doing. But anyway, let's get started. The Chris Palace Man United, I think, was meant to be on the Saturday, but I think got moved because Chris Palace had a load of games and they're right to get one of the games moved, and I'm going to have a guess it was that one, so I'll get onto that one later on in the video. Which we actually started off with the 3 o'clockers. And the first one was Brentford Burnley, which looked like it was going to be 0-0 for pretty much, 80 minutes really. But then Brentford got a pen, and it's only 1-0 Brentford. I should look at the games beforehand, but I mean, I have watched all the highlights, but I'm really bad at remembering things. Yeah, then Burnley goes with a penalty of their own. And then finally we had to go, which was a penalty, literally a minute later. We got Thiaw again. And then Dango Watara score right at the end. So I can't say any more about it because my brain's really blank for this. I really should have looked at it beforehand. But yeah, wait. So give me. I'm going to quickly do something. Okay, I just literally just checked the highlights again. Yeah, I remember now. The one that Brentford got was, I think many Burnley fans are calling a little bit dubious. And maybe they said it about Burnley's one. Brentford said the same one about Burnley's penalty because. But yeah, both of them were dispatched well, but then Igor Thiago capitalised on, basically his teammate missing. I find it into the top corner. The Jaguar just did a basic cross shot thing, there's not much really to say. But so sorry, Brentford and Burnley fans. I don't know why we're completely blanked on the game. But anyway, that leaves Burnley in the relegation zone. Obviously, it's actually put Burnley back into the top half. I think they're back into the top half. I think. Or this might be the first time they're actually in the top half. I can't actually remember, but. But yeah, it was a game that no one expected to have 4 goals about 80 minutes in. But yeah, it ended up being quite a good win for Brentford in the end. Moving on, we've got Man City versus Leeds, and what we got was what was now the second fastest goal of the season for Phil Foden after 59 seconds. Which was like the worst start they could have had to this game. Which was followed up by Josko Vardiol, who basically had an open goal to aim at. Well, to be fair, both of them did. And many people, when it got to half time, were just like, well, this is already wrapped up for Man City. I did as well. I was like, yeah, I think my prediction was right for my video, but Man City were going to get back on track. But then Calvert-Lewin scored 4 minutes into the second half, and everyone went, oh, hang on. And then Lucas Paqueta scored as well. It made it 2-2. After they got a penalty, which Paqueta actually missed. But it luckily got saved right back out to him again. It looked like Man City were going to drop points again. Then Phil Foden, who scored the really early goal, scored right in added time. It was a brilliant finish. It was outside the box. But for like Arsenal and Chelsea fans, you imagine they saw that go in and just were absolutely gutted. Well, I'm putting Chelsea in it because they're up there in a minute, but who knows if they're going to be anywhere near that by the end. As a Chelsea fan, I hope they are. But yeah, like I said, it puts Man City back what would be 5 points behind Arsenal. And you know for why they would have preferred if Chelsea actually won that, so they've been 4 points behind. But I'll get onto that game at the end. And like Burnley leads in the relegation, but I think only on goals scored because Leeds have scored 13, West Ham have scored 15. So it's still looking really tight in that bottom 5. Oh, but of course, Nottingham Forest away now, so there's potentially they could get out of it now. And maybe try get some of the other some of the other teams back in it, like Fulham or Everton, it might start going back down again. Who knows? But anyway, well, a comeback. We had a comeback in the Leeds game, but that didn't end up come to fruition in the end. One that did was, of course, Sunderland. Sunderland are ridiculous at home this season. I think they're still unbeaten. But it started off terribly when Adley scored his first goal for Bournemouth, and then probably a contender. No, yeah, I'm going to call it goal of the match week. Tyler Adams just taking it off of Richarlison and Kenny McLean from the last couple of weeks and has gone from halfway. I do want to know whether this is a. Because I feel this might be the first time in a while we've had 3 high-lying goals in the space of about 2 weeks. It's actually ridiculous. But then, it seems to be the story of the 3 o'clockers. Then Sunderland got a penalty, and this one I think was quite. I think it was definitely. I think this was one that was like Stonewall pen. I might be wrong with that. So Bournemouth fans, I'm wrong with that, and you think it's a bit dubious, which of course you might do. Even if it's Stonewall penalty, if you're like a diehard like Chelsea fan, Arsenal fan, like other people, no matter how like obvious something is, you've got to try and find an argument. I usually don't, but I know some people do just because they spend a while trying not to admit that it was the right decision because whatever reason, basically. I'm not going to get too much into that. And then it took Sunderland literally no time into the second half before Traore scored an absolute brilliant goal. First Traore finally scoring back in the Premier League, which is, for any Chelsea fan, that's quite a good sight to see. And luckily not against Chelsea, like we was at Aston Villa the last game of the Tuchel's first season, well, first half season. When we actually had to rely on Tottenham to save us out of trouble. Yeah, sorry about that, something just went on. And then Brian Bobby, the saviour against Arsenal, ended up being the saviour against Bournemouth when he headed in with 21 minutes to go. And then I don't know what Lewis Cook was thinking. Like, he was getting a little bit scrappy by the end, and you literally just see him just walk up to who was it in the end? Yeah, it was No Sticky who, but basically Luca just walked up and just elbowed him in the face. But I don't know why Lewis Cook thought he was going to get away with that. But yeah, it got a little bit feisty towards the end. I think this is the one where it's only cut back and you just no. I'm thinking of a completely different game. Ignore me. And then, okay, moving on. If you actually saw the Match Week 13 predictions I did, I said I can't trust Newcastle's away form. I can't trust Tottenham's home form. Later on, I was right with Tottenham's home form. One I wasn't right with was Newcastle's away form. And I got proven wrong 52 seconds in, making it now the fastest goal of the season from Malick, which was just a header from a corner. And then Lewis Miley scored. And it's fair to say that Pickford should have saved it. 100% Pickford should have saved it. And then right before our time, Nick Woldemade scored again. It was pretty much done and dusted before half time. And then in the second half, Malick got his second. He hadn't actually scored for Newcastle now. They've come with pretty much the old London buses thing. With another header. And then former Chelsea player Kim Dewsbury Hall, after Thierry Barry thought he'd got his first goal for Everton, but it was offside or handball, I can't remember, but I'm forgetting a lot in this one, I do apologise. But yeah, the Dewsbury Hall put a lot more over the top. He controlled it brilliantly. Actually, I think it was just he got past to him. He did a brilliant turn and finish. And of course, you had the commentators saying, like, oh, they get another one. It might be interesting. Me and people I was watching with also wanted Everton to get another. And it was just a joke of if it went to 4-2, you just see all the Everton fans suddenly running back. But it wasn't to be. Newcastle saw it out, which managed to finally end their bad away form. Where if you actually look at the table, that's actually their first win away, which must be like quite getting a weight off your shoulders that you finally won a game away. Because when you're on the road and you just keep on losing, you just think it's just inevitable at that point. But it's always good to get your first win. They did. Like, I don't think Everton played particularly badly. But yeah, it was. I don't think Everton fans should be too worried. They've got. I know this. They've got Bournemouth tonight, as I'm recording this. So yeah, it was a good game to get yourself back on track, seeing as they've just lost Sunderland. Anyway, moving on, we've got what I was actually right about, Tottenham Fulham. I know people say you're a Chelsea fan who's clearly just a Chelsea bias, but I suppose this home form's been dreadful. It was only won one game. That was at the start of the season. If it's just on home form, they're actually in the relegation zone. But yeah, this game was pretty much lost in the first 6 minutes. When Kenny Tete has got a brilliant low drive goal, which was, yes, it was deflected, but it was a brilliant hit. And I even said you got Tottenham fans now going, oh, here we go again. Which made it even worse by Vicario getting his clearance all wrong, just clearing it to Josh King, who then passes to Harry Wilson, who I don't. It's actually quite impressive how he managed to curve it in from there. You thought he would have taken a touch first, but no. Of course, it's Harry Wilson, so he's just hit it first time and curled it in. And you probably had a bunch of Tottenham fans going, oh God, how is this going to be? But the second half, they were definitely better. They were miles better. And then it was rewarded by, on 59 minutes, Kudus absolutely blasting one into the top corner. There is arguments on whether the goalkeeper should have done better with it, but you can't knock the finish, basically. Yeah, it's another loss at home for Tottenham. Also, I just realised in my but then I said that Tottenham had a bad away record when I did my predictions. I just realised they're actually away today, so they might actually win. So if you've watched that video, then, well, I guess it's kind of right because Tottenham have been dreadful, but they've actually been better away. I think I just wanted to get the predictions out, so yeah, I have got that a bit wrong. I do apologise. Pretty much I just meant they like form in general, really. That's what I've probably meant to say, but when I'm just saying they've got a bad record, which they don't. So apologies for that, but yeah, hopefully they're hoping that because they're away, they've actually got a chance of beating Newcastle, but Newcastle have been brilliant at home. So we'll see. Then moving on to Sunday, we've now got a Crystal Palace Man United game, where it genuinely did look like Crystal Palace were going to win it. They played brilliantly in the first half, and after a retaken penalty from Jean-Philippe Mateta, after the first double touch that actually involved a retake, I concluded with a retake instead of just been counting as a miss. But in the second half, again, sort of like Sunderland, sort of like Tottenham, sort of like quite a few teams on Saturday. Man United came around saying I was just a completely different team. And Xerxes got his first goal for the season for Man United. And then a brilliant free kick from former Chelsea player Mason Mount helped the side and get quite a big win for Man United, push them back into the top half again. And yeah, there's not really much else to say. Don't think Chris Palace will be annoyed by a result. I think Glasgow literally came out and said that Chris Palace should have won that. Of course, people can have their opinions, so I think in the end, I think 1-1 probably would have been fair. But well done to Man United, they finally got another win. And again, in my predictions, I thought that the Everton game was going to affect them, and it really didn't. Well, it did for one half, basically. And then, moving on, with 13 games of the season, Wolves still haven't won a game yet. I'd say they lost 1-0 to Aston Villa. But look at the highlights. Wolves did have plenty of chances in that game. But it proved to be just a Kamara wonder goal that they ended up sealing the deal. And yeah, half the time it's not that Wolves are playing particularly badly. It's just every other team's pretty much better than them at the minute. Or getting the results and Wolves aren't. And you still got to start to wonder with 13 games in the season if the writing is already on the wall for them. As we're a third of the way into the season. And it looks like you got 2 points and you're a third way through the season. That is concerning. So it'll be interesting to see what if and what players Reynolds brings in the January window. I imagine he's just been managing Middlesbrough. So don't be surprised if you see one or two of the Middlesbrough players, at least in the news, for going to Wolves. Because it's always hardly surprising when, like, it was. People didn't think Dewsbury Hall's got to fit in at Chelsea, but as the risk of being the former Leicester manager, it just seemed like a no-brainer. It seemed like everyone knew it was going to happen. And yeah, there's not much else to say. Aston Villa back in the top 4 after being near the bottom 4 at the start of the season. So quite a good recovery. And then moving on to Nottingham Forest Brighton. So sorry if I'm breathing weirdly. It's just, I know it sounds really fair, but I've just been wrapping a load of presents. I know we had a load of boxes here, and I wanted to get them moved, so I was like, how about we wrap them now and put them under the tree now? And yeah, that's what we did, and now I've got space to move again. So yeah, the people talking about this game were saying that this game was actually particularly even. And from the highlights, it did look particularly even. It just ended up being the Brighton through Maxim de Kuyper and Thiaw Sheamus ended up being the best. Well, I don't know. They were more clinical. That's the word. There we go. And as far as Sheamus's goal came from, was a little bit of a collection for Sean Dyche's side, like quite a bad defensive error. But when you look at Nottingham Forest this season, when you look at Nottingham Forest this season, it's hardly surprising. But then when you actually look at it in the case of Nottingham Forest and the manager of Sean Dyche, something like this, you got to imagine he's going to be livid when he sees that. When he did see it. And interestingly, I'm looking on Football right now, and man in the match has been given to Elliot Anderson, which shows how even the game was. But yeah, I'm just looking at this. You got Maxim de Kuyper, who's a fullback playing at left mid. You got Mats FIFA, who's, I think he can play fullback, but then he's playing fullback. But to be fair, at this point, they're in fifth. Are you really going to question Fabio Ursula? And also, yeah, I'm wearing my Where is it? University of Brighton. Jumper again. And then we're going to move on to West Ham Liverpool. And I really thought that this was going to be a moment for West Ham to actually get points off of Liverpool. But, yeah, realistically, West Ham didn't play well in that game. And then it concluded with Alexander Isak getting his first goal in the Premier League for Liverpool. He got one against Southampton in the Carabao Cup, but it was against Southampton, basically what I'm trying to say. But he very good finish in the bottom corner, massive weight off his shoulders. It'd be interesting to see how he gets on against Sunderland and maybe in the next couple of games. It's like, for quite a bit of time, I've actually have been saying that Alexander Isak could be the biggest waste of time. But what he needed was a goal, and he's got the goal now. Let's see how he gets on in the next couple of games. And you never know, he might end up getting his form back again. Tottenham, no. Liverpool start going back up to again, and it doesn't look that bad anymore for him and Liverpool. So it'll be interesting what happens after this game with Alexander Isak. Especially as if he goes on a bad run of games again, he's just going to have Hugo Ekitike back in the starting 11 again. And then, you see, I don't understand what... You're already on the yellow. You're just on a tackle which is a little bit dubious in his head. Surely you just do what all the other players do, just have a look of disbelief, and then go, they're not going to change it, and then they carry on with the game. But Paqueta started talking, and then he kept talking, and he kept talking. The commentators and the co-commentator was sort of coming from a mile off. Many fans were seeing him from a mile off. As soon as he did get sent off, he's like, yeah, well, what did you think was going to happen? And I imagine quite a few of his teammates were... I think I saw Mavropanos at least had the face of Jesus Christ, shot, you making it worse. Literally after he got sent off, just saying, oh yeah, well done. Well, there's a little bit of bad in this game. We'll get on to the Chelsea game next, but puts Liverpool back into the top half again, which is a better sight for them. And leaves West Ham in a bit of trouble again. Because if Leeds beat Chelsea, which with current form looks unlikely, but I'm not going to say any more than that, because I know if I start acting really cocky, it's going to be the next AfterMatch episode. And now we've got Leeds 3 or something like that. And I'm just like, oh my god. Like, I'm going to have to talk about Chelsea losses because there are going to be at least one or two minimum this season. I know I'm being optimistic, but there are going to be losses this season. I'm going to have to talk about which could be fine to do. What I don't want to do is... Well, I'm really going to be, like, cocky or be... Like, I'm not going to be, like, bigging up myself just saying, oh yeah, they're definitely going to win. Because I know at the moment I'm going to do that. And Chelsea are going to end up losing 3 or 4-0 and just... Whoever's watching this is going to commentary just going, But anyway, moving on to the last game of this run, we had a very feisty game at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea versus Arsenal. No, I'm going to quickly answer the question that I know people are going to be asking first. Yes, I do think it was a red card. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, he's off. We're not going to have him for Leeds, Bournemouth and Everton. I'm not sure if it's in that order though, but we we should see how we get on in the next couple of weeks until he comes back. But from the small case study we saw from the rest of this game, it looks like there's not going to be too much of a problem. As 3 minutes into the second half, Chelsea get a corner after quite a good save from Darren Wright. It's probably not going in, but it's one of those things of if Darren Wright just let it just go over his head and it went in, then his teammates are going to be like, why did you save it? So it's like, sometimes you just do takes to be safe, even if you know it's going wide, because you can never be too sure. But from that corner, Chalobah gets his header on it, and Christian Mosquera is more interested with making sure Enzo Fernandez doesn't get to it, and it just drops in. It felt very reminiscent to me with the Chelsea Liverpool game when Kai Havertz did it. I sort of what happened afterwards, because that game ended 1-1 as well. Mkhitaryan equalised, and I was like, oh, here we go. My prediction of 2-1 Arsenal was probably going to be right now. It was fun whilst it lasted. But then, defensively, we were actually brilliant, which I was pleasantly surprised with. And yeah, Arsenal fans I've seen on social media are, I say, probably rightfully more angry because like Arsenal just didn't turn up. Like, so a game when you beat rivals, the aggression was there, but it seemed the mentality wasn't, which was odd, really. But look, they've got Brentford and they've got a reverse fixture at the Emirates, so it's obviously they could probably get the revenge potentially. But yeah, very good performance from Chelsea. Very good defensive performance. I've seen some people saying that the anti-terror ruined the game, which is he was given quite a few yellow cards at the start, and I feel that set a bad precedent for the rest of the game. But then, if you didn't give a load of like yellow cards, it's hindsight and stuff. So, HHR fans, how do you think Anthony actually got on that game? If you're like being perfectly honest, could be interested to see where you think because the game did end up getting a little bit out of hand. Like, I don't think they were reds, but I do think it was right to point out that I think Rodrigo Bentancur, when we faced Tottenham, the similar one didn't get any punishment. And the fact that he argued that two of the tackles in that game could have potentially been red cards themselves. The other one with Chalobah where he actually really did some damage to his face. And then Victor Gyökeres kicking Robert Sanchez, but it's just Chelsea fans trying to say, oh, should have been 10 against 10. I think it was 10 against 10 or 11v11. Then potentially Chelsea do go on and win it. It would be interesting to see what the Arsenal fans reaction would have been for that. But yeah, I've already done the video on my channel, but just quickly point out Newcastle Tottenham 2-2 Newcastle. Because I said Tottenham have a bad away form, which is wrong. At least I think that's what I said. Man City will be fine against Fulham, I think. I I think Chelsea and Liverpool will be fine. Arsenal will be fine. I think so Man United will be fine as well. And then the next week we've got Man City Sunderland will be good. Bournemouth Chelsea, Bournemouth in not recently, but if you look at some Chelsea results against Fulham in the last couple of seasons, you can argue that they might be our bogey team. But realistically, the Chelsea bogey team is Man United at Old Trafford. At least Liverpool, I think Liverpool will be okay in that one. But it really depends how they go on against Sunderland. I might end up having a change of opinion by then. And the next week, I've got FA Cup. Anyway, Brian got West Ham. I think one of my family members is a West Ham fan. He keeps on telling me, West Ham don't do well against Brighton. So I think many West Ham fans think they're going to lose to Brighton. From Chris Palace, I think Chris Palace will be fine. So yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to the double header episode next week. I'm certainly not looking forward to trying to edit it. I might end up just doing it as two separate videos. Just actually no, I might not. It's gonna be my first video. It's gonna be about an hour long. So I'm gonna try and talk about all the games for about an hour and a bit. I can't wait. That's not sarcastic, by the way. I think some people tell you about me that sometimes when I get started about talking about football, I can't stop. But if it's a scenario where I don't need to talk about it, I won't talk about it. But if you want to talk about it, I can ramble on a bit, and I do apologise to people who that's happened to. But anyway, got a double header next week. Be interested to see how I end up doing it. I've got a week to think about it. I'll be fine. But yeah, we've also got the transfer window coming up, so I might do some transfer videos because why wouldn't I? Because it's transfer season at that point. But I think I want to go for ones where it looks like it's going to happen, not just this one might happen. There's like a small chance it would happen, but it's just they're interested in them, and there's no actual substance to say that we're actually going to make any progress. As soon as there's progress, it looks like it's going to happen. I'll talk about it, and maybe even stretch it as far as wait until someone like Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein is. I said it's definitely happening before I make a video just saying what I think about it, like all the details and stuff. But when I say all the details and stuff, I'm not going to try to be like the next Fabrizio Romano. I'm just going to say, so this player's going to this club, blah, 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 blah. All the details and stuff. And of course, you always get like differing like price tags as well, so I'm not going to try and. It's unlikely I'm going to mention the price tags unless it's quite consistent with every club. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I still don't know if I'm going to do that, but I just want to let you know that I might end up doing that. But longer video next week. Hopefully you enjoy that. I'm Chris Coleman. This has been AfterMatch. I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching AfterMatch. If there's any match day you missed, I've made quite a few episodes from the last couple of match weeks on my YouTube channel. Check them out if you want to see my opinions on the other big decisions, big games, and just anything else from the last couple of match weeks. Be sure to check out my website, The Centre Circle, which I'm hopefully going to start uploading again by the time you're listening to this. Once I've come up with something to write for it. So make sure to check that out. There's links in my About page on YouTube. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.